Attorney warning. If you are a senior and you carry a gun, there is a legal exemption that was quietly put into place, and most seniors have no idea it exists. The government is not advertising this. The police are not telling you about it. And if you do not know about it, you could hand over your rights without ever realizing what you gave up. I am going to walk you through exactly what this exemption is, who qualifies, what states it applies to, and the exact words you need to say if you are ever stopped while carrying. Stay until the end because the most important part is what you say in those first 30 seconds of any police encounter. Let me start by explaining what has changed. Over the last several years, states across the country have updated their gun carrying laws. Some of these changes added new requirements. Some changed the permit process. Some added restrictions on where you can carry and how. And because of a major Supreme Court ruling in 2022 called Bruen, the entire legal landscape for carrying a firearm in public shifted dramatically. The court ruled 8-1 that the Second Amendment protects your right to carry a gun outside your home. That single ruling forced dozens of states to rewrite their laws. And inside those rewrites, there are specific provisions for seniors, provisions that most people never read, provisions that most attorneys never explain on camera. That is what this video is about. Here is the situation most seniors find themselves in. You have carried legally for years. You followed all the rules, you got your permit, you took your training course, you renewed everything on time. Then the laws changed. New training requirements, new permit fees, new restrictions on where you can carry, and suddenly you are not sure if you are still legal or not. That uncertainty is exactly where the government wants you. When you are uncertain, you do not carry. When you do not carry, you are defenseless. That is not acceptable, and it is not necessary, because in many states, seniors over a certain age are legally exempt from some of the new requirements that apply to younger gun owners. You may not need the new permit. You may not need the new course. You may already qualify for an exemption you do not even know you have. Let me be specific about what these exemptions look like in practice. In several states, gun owners who are 65 and older and who have held a valid permit for a certain number of years are grandfathered into the old system. They do not have to complete new training modules that were added after their permit was first issued. They do not have to pay new permit fees that were added by state legislatures. And in some cases, they are eligible for lifetime carry permits that eliminate the renewal process entirely. Now, these rules vary significantly by state. I am going to go through the states in detail in a few minutes, but the core principle is this. Many states decided that if a senior citizen has been a law-abiding gun carrier for a decade or more, that person does not need to be treated like a brand new applicant every time the legislature makes a change. That is the exemption, and it is sitting in the law right now waiting for you to claim it. The most important thing you need to understand is this: an exemption only protects you if you know it exists and you assert it properly. If you are stopped by police while carrying and you do not know your status under your state's current law, you are going to be nervous. And when people are nervous, they say things they should not say. They over-explain, they apologize, they give information that was never asked for. And every extra word you say during a police stop can be used against you later. So before we talk about the states, before we talk about the legal cases, I need to give you the words, the exact words, the words that protect you in the first 30 seconds of any encounter. If you are stopped while carrying and an officer asks if you have any weapons, here is what you say. You say these exact words. Officer, I want to cooperate fully. I have a firearm. I am a licensed carrier. That is it. 3 sentences. You stop there. You do not explain where the gun is unless they ask. You do not reach for anything. You do not volunteer your age or your permit history or how long you have been carrying. You say those 3 sentences and then you wait. Now write those down right now. Officer, I want to cooperate fully. I have a firearm. I am a licensed carrier. Those words accomplish 3 things at the same time. They signal cooperation so the officer does not feel threatened. They comply with notification laws that exist in many states. And they establish that you are a legal carrier from the very first moment. That framing protects you. What you must never say is just as important as what you should say. Do not say, I have a gun, without any context. Those 4 words without the cooperation frame can escalate a stop instantly. Do not say, I think I have a permit, or my permit might be in my car. Uncertainty about your own legal status is a red flag to any officer. Do not say, I carry because I have the right to. That is true, but it is adversarial, and it makes the rest of the stop harder for both of you. And do not reach for your wallet or your permit or anything else without first telling the officer what you are reaching for and waiting for them to tell you it is okay to reach. Those are the mistakes. Now you know what to say and what not to say. Let's talk about why this works legally, and then we will get into the state-by-state rules. The legal foundation for what I just told you comes from two places. The first is the Fifth Amendment. That is the part of the Constitution that says you do not have to answer questions that could incriminate yourself. In plain terms, you have the right to stay quiet. But here is the thing most people miss. There is a difference between exercising your Fifth Amendment rights and being cooperative. You can be cooperative without giving unnecessary information. Saying you have a firearm and that you are a licensed carrier is not self-incrimination. It is disclosure. And in states with duty to notify laws, it is actually required. The second legal foundation is the Bruen ruling I mentioned earlier. Because of that ruling, courts across the country are now applying a much stricter standard when reviewing gun restrictions. Laws that burden the right to carry in public have to be justified by historical tradition. If a state added a new requirement after Bruen that does not have a historical basis, that requirement may be vulnerable to legal challenge. And seniors who have been carrying under the old system have strong arguments that the new requirements simply do not apply to them. Now let us go state by state. I want to give you the specific information you need based on where you live. If you are in Florida, the state passed a permitless carry law in 2023. That means if you are a law-abiding citizen in Florida who is legally allowed to own a firearm, you can carry without a permit. You do not need the old concealed weapons license anymore to carry. But here is what seniors need to know. The old license is still valuable. If you have a Florida concealed weapons license, it gives you reciprocity in over 30 other states. So seniors who already have that license should keep renewing it even though it is no longer required at home. And if you are over 65 and your license has lapsed during the transition period, Florida has provisions that allow for reinstatement without the full new applicant process in many cases. Contact your county clerk for the specific form. If you are in Texas, the story is similar. Texas passed permitless carry in 2021. Seniors who had a license to carry before 2021 are in a strong position because they have documentation of their training history and their clean record. Texas also has a senior exemption on the fee for the license to carry for applicants who are 60 years and older. The fee drops significantly. If you are a senior in Texas who has let your license lapse, you can often renew at the reduced rate, and the renewal does not require the full training course if you are already in the system. Check with the Texas Department of Public Safety for your specific situation. If you are in Arizona, Arizona went permitless carry even earlier, back in 2010. Seniors in Arizona have some of the most complete protections of any state. There is no permit required to carry concealed, and there is no training requirement. However, seniors who want to travel to other states still benefit from getting the optional permit, which Arizona offers. And Arizona seniors who are veterans have additional protections under state law regarding firearms and government databases. If you are a senior veteran in Arizona, your status as a veteran actually affects what agencies can and cannot do regarding your firearms rights. If you are in California, the situation is more complicated, and I want to be honest with you about that. California has some of the most restrictive carry laws in the country. After the Bruen ruling, California was forced to revise its concealed carry permit system. Shall issue permit rules now apply, which means if you meet the legal requirements, the state cannot arbitrarily deny you a permit. But California added what critics called may carry here and may not carry there restrictions that are currently being challenged in federal court. For seniors in California, the most important thing is this. If you have held a California CCW permit for many years and your county is now applying new rules, do not assume those rules automatically apply to your existing permit. Existing permit holders in several California counties have successfully argued that changes made after their permit was issued do not apply retroactively. Get a local attorney involved if your permit status is being questioned. If you are in New York, the situation is also complex. After Bruen, New York passed the Concealed Carry Improvement Act, which was immediately challenged in court. The act added training requirements, character references, and location restrictions. Federal courts have issued injunctions blocking parts of this law. For seniors in New York who had permits before all of this happened, your pre-existing permit has been treated differently than new applications in many jurisdictions. but you need to know your county's specific position on existing permit holders. Call your county clerk and ask directly whether your existing permit status is affected by the new requirements. Do not assume. Ask. If you are in states like Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio, or Indiana, all of which have passed permitless carry in recent years, seniors are in a strong position. You have years of legal carrying history. You have clean records, and the new laws in most cases expanded your rights rather than restricted them. The exemptions that matter most to seniors in these states are about notification requirements and reciprocity rules for travel. Know your state's notification rules. Some states require you to tell an officer you are armed. Some do not. Knowing the rule in your state before you ever get stopped is how you stay safe and legal. Let me now talk about the special situations that seniors specifically face that younger gun owners do not deal with in the same way. The first is medical. If you are a senior who takes prescription medication, particularly any medication that affects your mental clarity or your reaction time, there are laws in some states that create a legal gray area around your carry rights. This does not mean you automatically lose your rights. It means you need to talk to a doctor and potentially a lawyer about your specific situation. If your doctor has ever asked you about firearms as part of a mental health screening, that conversation may have created a record. Know what is in your medical file and what, if anything, has been reported to state or federal databases. The second special situation is memory care facilities and assisted living. If you or a family member lives in a senior care facility and you want to keep a firearm there, the rules are different from keeping a gun in your own home. Some facilities have policies that prohibit firearms entirely. Some states have laws that override those policies. If you are trying to help a parent or grandparent understand their rights in a facility, know that the facility's policy is not the same as the law. A private facility can have its own rules that are stricter than state law, but they cannot take a legally owned firearm away from you without a legal process. If a facility is pressuring a senior to give up a firearm, that senior has legal options. The third special situation is traveling by car. Seniors who travel across state lines, whether in an RV or driving to visit family, need to understand the federal firearms transportation law. Under federal law, you are allowed to transport a legal firearm through any state as long as you are allowed to possess it in your state of origin and your destination state, and as long as the firearm is unloaded and stored in a locked container separate from the ammunition during transport. This federal protection is real. It does not give you the right to carry in the states you pass through, but it does protect you from prosecution simply for having the gun in your car while traveling. Many seniors do not know this rule exists. Now you do. I want to take a moment and talk directly to the seniors watching this who are wondering whether any of this applies to them personally. Here is what I want you to do right now. I want you to pause this video and go find your current carry permit. Look at the expiration date. Look at the issuing state and county, then come back and keep watching, because in the next section, I am going to tell you the 5 steps every senior gun owner needs to take to make sure they are protected under the current law in their state. And you are going to need that permit information to follow along. Step 1 is to verify your current permit status. Call your county sheriff's office or your state firearms database and confirm that your permit is current, that it is in the correct system, and that there are no flags on your record that you are unaware of. This takes about 15 minutes and it gives you a clean baseline to work from. Step 2 is to look up your state's current notification law. Go to your state attorney general's website and search for concealed carry notification requirements. The question you are answering is this: am I legally required to tell a police officer I am carrying before they ask me? The answer is different in different states and it changes sometimes when new laws pass. Knowing this rule before you ever need it is not optional. It is essential. Step 3 is to write down the 3 sentences I gave you earlier and put them somewhere you will see them. Officer, I want to cooperate fully. I have a firearm. I am a licensed carrier. Put that on a card in your wallet next to your permit. Put it on a sticky note in your car. Say it out loud once a week until it is automatic. Those words have to come out of your mouth naturally and calmly in a high-stress moment. The only way that happens is if you practice them when there is no stress at all. Step 4 is to look up your state's senior exemption specifically. Search your state name plus senior concealed carry exemption or lifetime carry permit seniors. You may find that you qualify for a permit that costs less, lasts longer, or requires no renewal. This is money in your pocket and one less thing to track every year. If you find an exemption that applies to you, call your county clerk and ask how to apply. Do it this week, not next month. This week. Step 5 is to check your reciprocity status if you travel between states. Go to a site like USCCA's Reciprocity Map or the NRA's Carry Guard Reciprocity Tools and plug in your home state and the states you regularly travel to. Make sure your permit is recognized where you go. If it is not recognized in a state you visit regularly, find out whether that state has its own non-resident permit process that you can apply for. Staying legal when you cross state lines is your responsibility. No one is going to remind you at the border. Now let me talk about what happens if you are stopped and things do not go the way they should. Even if you say the right words and cooperate fully, there are situations where an officer may detain you longer than expected or may ask questions that feel like they are going beyond what is necessary. If that happens, here is what you need to know. You have the right to ask if you are being detained or if you are free to go. You say it calmly. Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go? That is a legally protected question. The officer must answer it. If you are free to go, you may leave. If you are being detained, you have the right to know why. At that point, you also have the right to request an attorney before answering further questions. You do not have to explain your gun. You do not have to explain where you are going or where you have been. You cooperated. You disclosed your firearm. You provided your permit. That is what the law requires. Everything beyond that is protected by your right to stay quiet. There is one more thing I want to address directly for the seniors watching this who live alone. Your right to carry is part of your right to defend yourself. Especially for seniors who live alone, that right has real daily meaning. The new laws in many states were written by legislators who do not carry, who do not live alone, and who do not fully appreciate that a person in their 70s cannot physically defend themselves the same way a person in their 30s might. Your firearm is your equalizer. The Constitution recognized that. The Supreme Court has reinforced it. And every exemption, every protection, every legal right I have described in this video exists because the law understands that self-defense is a fundamental human right. Do not let new requirements that were not designed with seniors in mind quietly strip you of that right. Know your exemptions, assert them, and pass this video to every senior you know who carries, because most of them are in the same situation. Most of them followed the old rules perfectly. Most of them do not know the new laws have provisions that protect them specifically. You just learned it. Make sure they learn it too. Send this video to one senior you love right now. It does not matter if they carry. It does not matter if they are even thinking about carrying, because what I have described today is not just about guns. It is about knowing your rights so that no one can take them from you without your knowledge. That is the whole point of this channel. Knowledge is your best protection. The government counts on you not knowing your rights. Now you know them. Now use them. If you are not subscribed yet, do that right now and hit the bell. Every time a court ruling comes down that affects your rights, I break down exactly what it means in plain language, step by step, so you know what to do. That is what this channel is here for. And remember the 3 sentences. Officer, I want to cooperate fully. I have a firearm. I am a licensed carrier. That is what you say, nothing more until they ask. Those sentences could protect you in the most important 30 seconds of your life. Write them down, practice them, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.